Yeah. Okay, 1 second.
How do I get rid of this? Meeting has been live stream. Must I just put got
No,
it?
no, it's going live. Now it's going live.
So must I say got it?
No, that's fine. Yeah, you can say got it. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm with you.
Okay, I'm gonna make myself the main screen here. No.
I can see you beautifully, Rabbi.
No, thank you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I see people are logging on. Leon, Mark, Tuvia, Robert Levy, Peter Kaplan. Hello, Selwyn.
Hello, Robert.
Okay, good stuff. Live from the Bayit. I can't do this every week from the Bayit just yet until there's internet. At the moment, we're feeding off my phone because there's a program next door in the L call. But when we're in the L call, I've got some data that connects from the hall. Okay, right. Everyone got 12A4. Sorry about the delay. 12A4. Okay. We touched upon Machloket, Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Saglili. The question was, what happens when he leaves the Ir Miklat, city of refuge? What then happens? So we said it's a mitzvah, an obligation. It's an obligation. It's a curfew for dogs. It's an obligation in the hands of the Redeemer to kill him.
Sorry, you said it's an option last time.
Oh, it's two opinions. The first opinion says it's a mitzvah for the Redeemer to kill him, the family member to kill him. That's number one. If there's no family member, if there's no Goel Hadam, if there's no Redeemer, then what do we say? Reshut. Then it's permissible for anyone. It's permissible for anyone to do it. So anyone can do it, not obligated to do it, but can do it. Rabbi Akiva says that it's not an obligation in the hands of the Redeemer, but rather it's permissible for the Redeemer to do so. What about everybody else? Everybody else says you can't do it at all. Only the Redeemer can do it. Everyone else would be chayav murder had they done it. Okay. Now we said, okay, we then brought insights. We learned the two next paragraphs, didn't we? Okay, so we're not going to go back there now. We brought two sources, a source for each of where we see in the wording that an indication for either side. To either say it's an obligation or to say it's permissible. Let's go to the next paragraph on 12A4, bottom left. And we say like this. Amma Mazutra bar Tuvia, Amma Rav. Mazutra bar Tuvia says in the name of Rav, if a killer goes out to the city, and the Redeemer finds him, and kills him, what happens? Nerag alav, you actually kill him. You kill the Redeemer for killing him. This is a third opinion now. If the Redeemer, now this is contrary to what we understand, because we all understand that the Redeemer is allowed to kill him or obligated to kill him. Now we're saying if the Redeemer kills, right? If the Redeemer kills, then you actually kill the Redeemer. That's the opinion of Marazutra Batuvia on Marav, which is exactly different or very different to the original view.
That would be deliberate. It wouldn't be accidental.
The deliberate meaning the Redeemer went and killed him deliberately. Yeah. Well, the question is, if he has permission to do so, why are we killing him? He was told to do so, or he was instructed to do so, or he was permitted to do so. One of the two. So the Gemara says, come on, who does Marazutra hold like? Lo Rabbi Saglili, lo Rabbi Akiva. He's not holding like Rabbi Saglili, because Rabbi Saglili is the one that said it's a mitzvah obligated. And he's not holding like Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva is the one that said it's permissible. So he's holding neither of them because he's saying you kill them. That's the question. And remember, Mazutra is not a Tana. He's not a Talmudic sage. He's not a Mishnaic sage. He's a Talmudic sage, which means he can't really invent his own opinions. He's got to be supported by a Tana. There's got to be a Tana who supports his opinion. And where is this Tana? So it says the Gemara, Hud Amar ki hai Tana. He says a ruling in accordance with another Tana. So he has a Tana meaning Mishnaic sage. He has another Tana who's supporting him. Who is this other Tana? The Tana, as it says in the Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer says, Ad omdoi lifnei ha'eda la mishpat. That the killer does not die until he stands before the court. Remember we spoke about the court? Until he stands before the court to be put to death or to be punished. Ad means until he stands in front of the court. Okay, ad means until he stands before the court for judgment. Let's continue. Because it said that the redeemer of the blood will kill the killer. So the redeemer will kill the killer. Yochel miyad. You may have thought that you kill immediately, because it says straight away kill him. So can the redeemer kill immediately as soon as he finds him? Tamalomar, it says in the verse says, Ad amdoi lifnei ha'eda la mishpat. Until he stands before the court for judgment. That's what it means. You don't kill him immediately. You've got to first sentence him. It means they have to first sentence the killer. Okay? When they sentence the killer, then the redeemer can go and kill the killer. Until that point in time when they haven't yet, because we spoke about this, we've rushed him off to the city of refuge. He sits in the city of refuge until he's sentenced. And then we make a decision. Either he's put to death because he's an intentional murderer, or he stays in the city of refuge. Whichever way it is, he's got to stand his court case. So, or he's not guilty. That's right. Or it's mamish innocence, and he goes. Right. So here we say like this. You can't, this is the opinion that we just read. You can't kill him until he stood his sentence. Now, this is the case. Comes along this guy, the Redeemer, and the Redeemer goes along and kills him. What happened? He stepped out. He stepped out of the city on his own. The Redeemer comes along and kills him. Says Mazutra, hold on. He hasn't stood sentence yet. If he hasn't stood sentence yet, then it's murder. If it's murder, you're going to kill him. Would you mind if I could just close this door here a little bit? Okay. So that's the case. Now, let's just read it. The final paragraph sums it up and says, Rabbi Yosef Glili and Rabbi Akiva, however, do not require the participation of the court. They don't believe in the court. And that's why they allow the redeemer, the killer, they allow the redeemer to kill immediately as soon as he steps out. Either, according to Rabbi Glili, it's a mitzvah to kill, or according to Rabbi Akiva, it's voluntary to kill. But either way, you're allowed to kill straight away. Why? Because they don't believe in this court case need, the necessity of a court case. It's specifically Mazutra who holds that you've got to have a court case in place. And until that court case takes place, the Redeemer can't touch it. If he does touch it, you kill him. But now the question is, it seems like the mitzvah of the court case is the mitzvah d'oraita. It's a biblical commandment. It says, until he stands to judgment. It sounds like you have to stand judgment. Because the verse says very clearly, ad omdoi lifnei, ad omdoi, says, ad omdoi lifnei ha'eida la mishpat. Until he stands in front of the community for judgment. Until he stands in front of the community for judgment. That's what it says. So it sounds like it's a biblical commandment that you have to have a court case. So how is Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva going to interpret this? They didn't hold that. They don't say there has to be a court case. So how do you explain that? Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Akiva, these words, until they stand judgment for mishpat. How do they interpret this? He says, So we need this verse for another. We need this verse for another brisa. Okay, so this verse having the need to stand in front of court is needed for another brisa. What's the other brisa say? We're turning over the page to 12a5. What does the other brisa say? Rabbi Akiva says, Minayin Sanhedrin. No. Minayin Sanhedrin, Shiro Echad Shaharagas Nefesh. Where do we see about a Sanhedrin? A court that saw a person murder another. Okay, they saw it. Meaning the Dayanim of the Beis Din saw this murder take place. How do we know? Sorry?
Then there will only be witnesses.
Yeah, well, that's the question. The court cannot be witnesses and judges. There's a law in Halacha that says that if you became a witness, if you're a witness, you can't be a judge.
Right.
Why? Because when you see something, it's not logical anymore. Nobody can convince you out of it once you've seen it. I can tell you all the rationale in the world of why it was done and justify or not justify. Once I saw it, no one's convincing me out of it. You need total subjectivity. Objectivity in order to judge. That's what it means. Okay, total objectivity of him. So how do we know that if one Sanhedrin saw him kill a nefesh, we say, we don't kill him until he stands before another court to be judged. Okay, so you need to have the judgment of another court. It says, he quotes the same verse. You got to stand in front of court. Until you stand in another court will judge you. According to Rabbi Akiva, this verse of standing in front of another court is not telling you that you have to have judgment in place before the Redeemer kills. They don't believe in that. It's telling you that another court has to judge him at some point in time. Everyone's going to have a court case, irrelevant to when the Redeemer kills him or doesn't kill him. Everyone's going to have a court case. So the question is, when he has a court case, which Beis Din is going to judge him? It can't be the Sanhedrin who saw him, because they are witnesses, they're not judges. Okay. So to summarize this point, according to Mazutra, the Redeemer has to wait until after the court case before taking action. According to Rabbi Akiva, not necessarily. He can kill, or he must kill, or he can kill, depending on which opinion you go by, immediately. The whole court case has nothing to do with the Redeemer. That's how we summarize this point.
Now, why don't you start back? He ran to the city of refuge to escape.
Yeah.
But if he didn't run, maybe he was caught on the way, then the Redeemer could kill him. Now, isn't this equivalent?
So I did see a footnote here that spoke about on the way.
Equivalent, he hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, but here in this case, he arrived, he just stepped out.
Does it change the status?
Yeah, it's worse than the guy on the way. The guy on the way may not be held guilty for not getting there. So maybe the Redeemer can't touch him. In the case of a guy who was there and then stepped out, he becomes a lot more guilty. Some water? Okay, that's the first bit about Ma'asutra versus Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi. What is the final? Psak. You want to know who the halacha is like? I can maybe see it here.
Wait.
Yeah, you're a demon. That's a good question. It looks like the halacha is that the Gra Adam should do it, obligated to do it. Yeah, it's one opinion, but it looks like the halacha is like that. Don't think it's a Gemara Sutra.
Isn't it only if he leaves the city of refuge?
Yeah. Only if he leaves the city. Correct. If he leaves the city. David, you got it? Managed?
Yeah.
So you can then press it in order to finish.
Yeah,
Okay. We're going to go on now to the next paragraph, 12a5, middle left. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. We're talking about now the opinion who holds that the Redeemer kills as he leaves the city. The Redeemer kills as he leaves the city. Tana Rabbanan, im yotza yeitzei haritzeach. The verse says this double terminology. If the killer will go out of the border of the city of refuge, the Redeemer of the Bible will kill the killer. You see the double terminology? Im yotza yeitzei. The double phrase, if he will surely go out. If he'll go out. Ainly ela b'meizit. It sounds like it's intentional. That if he intentionally walked out, right? If he intentionally walked out, then he gets killed. Ainly ela b'meizit. It sounds like it's only if it was intentional. What about if it was accidental? What happens if by mistake he stepped out? So now, how do you walk out of the city by mistake?
Well, we said it's the Kum Shabbos. So you may be walking around and you don't actually realize how far you are. You're actually beyond where you're supposed to be.
Very good. It's a good understanding. So it's 2,000 amos, 2,000 cubits around, and you haven't calculated correctly. So you stepped out of that perimeter. That's good. That's the case of Satan.
So how's it a convict here?
Hello, Iva.
Sorry, I've just got in now with my wife's iPad.
I see. Okay, no problem.
I can't get in with my pad.
Yeah, we got a hypothetical question coming through here. Yeah, let's hear.
There's a tree that is growing right by the border. Many succulent trees. You want to branch this over. Does it belong out of the border?
Yeah, okay.
There are such questions about Meiser and giving a tithe and giving 10% of your animals. Which side of the fence is the animal on? But I think that's going to make this a little bit technical.
It's the hole in the ground.
We spoke about the hole in the ground, didn't we? We said if you go to the hole in the ground, then it's not considered part of the city. Well, we actually had a machloket there as to whether underground is considered or not.
Rabbi, were the cities not enclosed in some sort of a way that you knew where the end
Above the
was?
ground. One second, Leon. Is he in the city or out of the city? He's on the street. Okay, I think we're getting off track here a little bit. Leon, what did you say?
I said, aren't the cities enclosed that you know you've only walked 2,000 amos?
Not necessarily because the cities have fields around them. So it feels like an open space. There's not necessarily going to be a fence circling that. So you have to sort of measure based on measurement around the field. That's what you'd say. Okay, let's go on. So how do we know unintentional? The shoygeg minayin. How do we know unintentional? The shoygeg minayin, right? So now, in other words, if he left the city inadvertently, how do you know you can kill him? Tamaloma, because it says a double terminology. Im yotzoy yeitzei. Why would it use this funny terminology? Im yotzoy yeitzei, if he will surely go out. Double terminology. It could have just said im yatza. If he went out, then you got to kill him. What's im yotzoy yeitzei? And unintentional. That's what I'm saying. The double terminology is basically saying to us that no matter how he left, whether he left intentionally or he left unintentionally, both times would be relevant. The double terminology means in all situations, the killer may be killed by the redeemer of the blood. That's how we know this. So that's how we know.
Any one of us could have guessed.
In Chile. That's how we know. That's how we know the case. In Yotza Yetze. We're going to look now. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to actually see. It's not so simple. When you use double terminology or a phrase in slang or lingo, right? The question is, why did he repeat himself? Why did he say the double terminology? Why did he use such a sophisticated language? That could be a question. So that's what we're saying here. Why would the Torah use such a double terminology in Yotza Yetze, which indicates, right, if he will surely go out? That's going to be the question. So we're saying, according to this opinion, it's emphasis of the fact that he went out, irrelevant to how he went out. So either he went out intentionally or he went out unintentionally, whichever way it's going to be. The outcome, you learn from here, that the emphasis is whichever way. That's the answer, whichever way. That's only one opinion, as we'll see. Tanya, but we learned in another brisa. We go to the right-hand column now. Tanya, we learned another brisa. The Mezid Neherag, the Shoigeg Goyle.
When we started this chapter, we were talking about these terms about Mezid and Shogeg, in terms of the actual killing itself.
Originally, very good. So we spoke about Mezid and Shogeg when it came to the killer. Yeah. Now we're speaking about Mezid and Shogeg when it comes to the person stepping out of the city of refuge. Exactly. So it says the Mezid Neherag, the Shogeg Goyle. It says clearly that if he killed deliberately, or should I say in this case, if he left deliberately, he'll be killed. If he left inadvertently, he'll be re-exiled. So we put him back in. So it seems like there's a contradiction between these two brises. The first brisa says whether you leave b'shogeg or b'mezid, kill him. The second brisa says no. If you leave b'mezid intentionally, then you kill him. If he leaves inadvertently, unintentionally, you don't kill him. So we have a contradiction of brises here. Which way do we go?
You don't know what he's done. Once he's out, he's out.
You say you don't know why he left?
No, once he's out, he's out.
No, but the question is, did he announce to his friends, "I'm leaving"? If he announced to his friends, "I'm leaving," it's pretty much intentional. If he didn't announce that he's leaving, can you assume immediately that it was unintentional? I'm not sure.
It's the same, like you would need witnesses
to testify that
he left.
Yeah. I'm just not sure. Would we conclude that it was unintentional without witnesses?
What's the definition of unintentional?
He didn't know the measurement space. Yeah, because he was supposed. Yeah, he was. I think that's right. He was supposed to measure 1,000 meters, kilometer, and he didn't measure correctly, and he stepped out. That'd be a case of shogeg.
Just to clarify, this is the active
No, the Goel Adam, the Redeemer, can kill him. And if it's inadvertent, then he can't kill him, and you go throw him back into exile. Okay, so we have a conflict of two brises. So how do we conclude? Says the Gemara, right hand column. Lo kash is not a question. This brisa, command Amar, as it says, Amrinon, command Amar, Amrinon, we say, Dibra Torah Kolosha b'nei Adam. We say that the Torah speaks in the language of people. The powerful line. Torah speaks in the language of the people. Let's first explain that simply, and then we can maybe get a little bit deeper. Meaning, the fact that the Torah repeated itself doesn't mean anything. The fact that it says im yotzo yetze, it's a double terminology, it means nothing. Because the Torah speaks the way humans speak. And if humans use such terminologies without too much analysis, if humans repeat themselves, Torah can also repeat themselves. That's the language, that's the lingo of Torah. We don't spend too much time looking at the double terminology and trying to work it out. Just like you can repeat words, Torah repeats words. Why? Because it tries to find a slang by which man would himself speak. So Miyotzo Yetze, if he ends up going out, it sounds strange, the double terminology, but the conclusion is that that's how humans would speak. If that's how humans... Sorry?
Don't read too much into it.
Oh, very good, exactly. Now, let me just say that I think there's a powerful line in that line, unrelated to the literal. The fact that Torah speaks the language of the people is a powerful line, because many people will say that Torah speaks the language of yesterday, or the people, or archaic people. Here we're saying Torah speaks the language of the people, or like the language of the people. Meaning, I'm taking this out of context here. Meaning, Torah has to relate to our terminology. Has to relate to our concepts and our deliberations and our dilemmas. There's got to be inspiration from Torah for Lashon Bnei Adam.
I think in Tanya we're learning the verse about that. The Torah is not over the oceans and it's very close.
Very good. Exactly that.
Kind of thing.
And therefore it needs to be relevant to our lives. Okay. So that's the first opinion. Oh, but then we have another opinion. And another opinion, the other Brisa, who allows the killing of inadvertent murderers, inadvertent trespassers. So how does he explain it? He says, we don't say that Torah speaks the language of the people. We don't use that excuse that Torah speaks the language of the people. In other words, double terminology in Torah is not acceptable. Double terminology by us may be acceptable, but double terminology by Torah is not acceptable. Okay? That's how he holds. And therefore, the fact that the Torah uses double terminology must be in order to teach me that inadvertent trespassing is liable, will be killed for inadvertence. That's what we're saying, right? It doesn't tie in very nicely into our homily, the drush that we take from this. But he says Torah doesn't speak the language of the people. Sounds like a conservative, mindset. Old and archaic and everything. That's not what it means. It means it doesn't use loose language and double terminologies. Okay, so that's how we reconcile the contradiction between the two brises. Why the brises so different? Because the brises actually have a fundamental difference in interpreting Torah. One says you should make a big deal out of double terminology, right? And the other says don't make a big deal because it just speaks the language of the people. So because it speaks the language of the people, it can repeat itself. You can't derive anything else different from that. Abaye says, Mistabra, I'm going to prove to you, Commander Amar, according to opinion who holds, Dibra Torah Koloshem Bnei Adam. A Torah speaks in the language of the people. I'm going to show you that this is more of a reasonable way of thinking. Torah speaks in the language of the people. Because we don't want his ending to be more strict than his beginning. And this is what Hilton was referring to. We don't want the ending to be more strict than the beginning. What do we say in the beginning? Right at the beginning, we said that if he's killed deliberately, he goes into exile. Sorry, he's killed. The shoygeg, if he kills inadvertently, by mistake, he kills. He goes into exile. That's the case of the murderer. If he kills intentionally, he's killed. If he kills inadvertently, he goes into exile. So says Abaye, the same thing would make sense for the trespasser. So at the end, the Mazid, if he trespasses intentionally, Neherag, he'll be killed. The Shogeg, if he trespasses inadvertently, go there, send him back into exile. So says Abaye, I like the opinion of those who speak the language of the Torah, which according to that opinion, inadvertent is not obligated. Right? Is not obligated. I prefer that version. How do I know? Because I want the beginning to mirror, I want the end to mirror the beginning. In the beginning, when we spoke about murder, intentional murder got killed, inadvertent went to exile. So to the end should be the same. The end should also be the same. Meaning, if he trespassed, hold on. Yeah. If he trespassed intentionally, he'll be killed. If he trespassed inadvertently, he'll be thrown back into exile. That's how we learn.
What if the person is living in one of the cities of the Indian, and he accidentally kill somebody, does he go into exile in another town, or can he then do the same place?
So we did say that all the cities of Levim were considered Ari Miklot.
So can he
But
say-
I'm not sure if they carry the din in such a case. But I'm not sure.
But I'm saying we stay there or between another city.
There were no sharp objects in those cities, obviously.
Now you're saying if he left the city of the Levim, is he now open to killing?
No, he lives permanently there. And if he kills somebody by accident, now does he go to another city of Israel? Is he allowed to say?
Oh, so there.
There were no weapons in those cities, obviously.
Don't know.
They had testing articles.
Yeah, on that note, we want to daven and learn in merit of the Jews of Ukraine and the people of Ukraine. We're going through a terrible, terrible time. I'm sure you heard today that Babi Yar Memorial was bombed. It's written everywhere. It was damaged. It's written everywhere. The president of Ukraine mentioned it in his speech. Did you see his speech? The president of Ukraine spoke today. What's his name? Zelensky, and he spoke about Babi Yar. He spoke about the Jews who were killed by the Nazis and the fact that they're killing these people a second time round by shooting down the memorial. He's actually a comedian.
That's how I got in.
By nature, he's a comedian. Little did he think in his wildest dream that this is what he's going to be doing for occupation. He's a Jew. He's Jewish.
I know he's a Jew, but somehow West Indian.
Now the Ukrainians weren't in the times of the war. Ukrainians weren't, but he's you what? What?
I'm saying, I've got a manager with me.
Yeah.
He's 20-something, he came as a teenager from
From Ukraine.
And he says what's going on is it's the place they've been waiting for this to happen for like 8 years. Yeah, why? He lived in the guns, his mom's still there.
And
Because he says the Ukrainians are terrible.
they're terrible people.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but for the Jewish community, Ukraine has been for the Jewish community after the war, it's been very good for them because they restored a lot of their communities and a lot of their shuls and the what 70 years ago, yeah.
I'm saying
No, not at all.
I'm saying World War II is only 8 years.
Yeah. I'm talking about the last 30, 40 years. They've rebuilt Judaism in Ukraine. Not to forget the past, obviously, but to be able to build the future.
Why think about 200,000 Jews in Ukraine?
It just shows you that obviously they were living. First of all, they're very secular, and they know nothing. And second of all, it just shows you that the government has actually benefited the Jews to live there. Anyway, I just want to mention that there's a lot of rabbis who I know. One of them being a cousin of Esti's, the first cousin I mentioned him on Friday night. First cousin of Esti, who just got out today with his family to Romania. But literally, huh?
Didn't they see this thing coming? I mean,
Okay. So it's a very good question, very good moral question as to why did the Chabad rabbis in particular leave earlier? I think there's a moral dilemma, especially if your people are still staying. So there's orphanages. How do you move an orphanage? How do you move an orphanage of 80 kids? But the question, first of all, costs you. They were just sharing today on different WhatsApp groups. The amount of euros it costs to move 80 kids.
The Russians are coming.
You hope they're not coming. You hope they're not coming. You hope they're not coming.
But everybody knew they were coming.
Yeah.
Meant to come a week before.
All right, let's go on.
The Russians have been surprised. That's all I can say.
The Russians
They
themselves.
walk in there one day.
And the other thing is, this is going to affect Jewry in Russia too, because now there's going to be sanctions. There's going to be travel bans. There's a lot of Jews and rabbis and rebbetzes in Russia too,
No, they're published already. I mean,
and they're not going to have food. They're not going to have food in Russia.
No, they got plenty of wheat. They got plenty of food.
Okay, but not international import and
But they sell suspicious massive
kosher food. I don't know.
Yeah, but they cut off everything.
No, those guys, no, they're superpower. They put the first people to put them in space. They've got gas,
Let's see.
they've got fuel, they've
Anyway,
got-
Hashem Shem Rachmanas. Literally that. Okay, we're going to go to the next page. So that's how we concluded. The Abaya says, it seems to me more logical to hold like the opinion who says the Torah does speak the language of the people. And therefore we should not learn anything out of this phrase, Yotzo Yaitse, in terms of inadvertent trespassing. Okay, next case, page 12a6. Next case, Tani Chada. We have a brayso who says the following: Ab Shaharag, the father kills his son inadvertently. Av Shaharag, which means same idea. He fell off the ladder, and heaven forbid his son was under the ladder. Benoi Naseloi Goel Hadam. His son becomes the redeemer of the blood against him.
Second son.
Other son. Very good. Another son becomes a redeemer of the blood against him, i.e. is permitted or obligated to kill his father. That's pretty scary, huh? Right, you would say, you know, touch your father.
Isn't it more that says that the father's like to kill his son, but the son's not like to kill his father?
That's surely honor that father.
Punish, touch, punish.
Honor that
How?
father comes first.
Well, let's see. Another brayso says, the Tani Idach, another brayso says, Ein benoi naseloi goel adam. His son does not become a redeemer of the blood against him. Meaning he may not kill his father. So we have a machloket. Two opinions in the brayso. May he kill his father, may not kill his father. Okay. So you're absolutely right. I hear all your questions. What about kibbutz aim? At the same time, let me just give you a spin on this. If the redeemer is not a logical concept, the fact that a relative can even go back and kill the killer, who was an inadvertent killer, and just trespassed out, the fact that a killer can go and kill this person itself is God introduced. Does it make sense? Okay, so it doesn't make sense. So the fact that a child can do that job, well, it's God deciding. If God decides that the Redeemer can do it, he can decide whoever he wants, even if it's going to be, if it's going to be the Son himself. So one of the ways of explaining this contradiction is by coming back to the machloket, to the argument of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yosef Dili. If we go back to the machloket again, we may be able to explain the difference between the two braysos. Meaning, why are the braysos different? Because the braysos are holding like Rabbi Yosef Dili and like Rabbi Akiva. If they're holding like Rabbi Yosef Dili and Rabbi Akiva, then it makes sense. Let's see how he says that. Leima, let's say, Ha Rabbi Yosef Dili, Ha Rabbi Akiva. The one that says that he's allowed to kill him holds like Rabbi Yosef Dili, who says that it's a mitzvah to kill. And because it's a mitzvah to kill, even if you are the son, it's still a mitzvah to kill. You know why? He brings here the footnote. Notwithstanding the general obligation to honor one's father and the specific prohibition against striking him, so there's a mitzvah not to touch him, but because there's a mitzvah, there's a mitzvah for the Redeemer to do it, even the child can do it. Exactly. So this mitzvah overrides it. It's like the mitzvah of bris milah. Bris milah overrides Shabbos if it's a natural rest of 8 days. Yeah. So that's one case. The korbanos, the sacrifices in the Beis Hamikdash, override fire, and right, because God could do so. So the mitzvah of killing the killer can override whatever issues of father and son relationship there will be. The other opinion says Rabbi Akiva. The other brayso will hold like Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva says that killing the person is not a mitzvah, and because it's not a mitzvah, the son can't do it. That fits in beautifully.
Why do you say it's not a mitzvah?
It's an option. It's not a
Yeah, he's like a compulsory. You may kill.
Son shouldn't be compelled.
Not necessarily you're obligated to kill.
And if you do kill, is it a mitzvah? You have to run to do a mitzvah.
Rabbi?
Peter, 1 second. If I don't know. No, I don't think so. Not based on how we understood it earlier. It's voluntary. You want to kill, you kill. Peter?
Sorry, Rabbi, I just wanted to ask, I'm worried about this idea that we are allowed to take blood for someone else's blood. And my thought process has always been that our religion is so pro to life and to live life and to succeed and okay to repent. But taking one person's life is bad enough, and then we take a second.
Yeah.
Or am I contradicting?
No, you're absolutely right. You're trying to understand God's way. How could God instruct us or voluntarily allow us voluntarily to kill? Kevin? Yeah? Okay.
You would say,
Well, speak up so they can hear you.
you would say most people cannot. They have faith, and at the end of the day, you will be judged. At some point, you will be judged. Not now, and the world to come. So in order to give society, people feel grief, ability to continue, it's got this whole construct that
allows them to kill.
It's more theoretical thing than this.
that
Didn't really happen.
that allows the grieved
To act.
to be able to act. And forces the person who's killed accidentally to be able to take responsibility. It's a delicate balance to manage.
You're saying that why? What's the motivation? Because punishments.
People can't accept the fact that people will be punished, there will be judgment.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But enable society to continue.
Hashem allows it. Akiva?
Also, having laws that manage a society and social code that protects lives. This person has done something guilty for it, their life will be taken. And it's still part of that guilt. Not forcing
Even in other words, I hear your point. So even though you're allowing him to kill, you're actually going to protect society.
It's not murder. It's just taking it off. Just showing what's good.
So what are you saying? So by allowing the Redeemer to kill, what have you done?
There's no
Allowing it,
consequence.
then it allows others to do. Right.
But it forces the killer, his life is curtailed. Enables the grieved to get on with his life knowing.
Yeah.
I
think you're both saying something quite similar, that this is a means into a better life. Peter, do you hear that point? So although it's strange that we're allowing a double murder, but we are restoring we're restoring confidence in society to say you won't get away with it.
Okay, so like we're doing it's a justice kind of thing.
Yeah. It's killing in order to prevent killing, actually.
There's also an idea.
So wait, one second, David.
When did these laws fall away?
As soon as we had no Sanhedrin. So when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. When we had no Sanhedrin to do this, then these laws fell away.
Let's go back to what Rabbi Akiva said. He said it's controlled.
Yeah, can't.
No, the public can't kill him. What did we say? The relative can, but isn't obligated to.
Wait. You mean the son? You mean the son?
We said anyone.
According to Rabbi Akiva, no, you're allowed to kill. The relatives are allowed to kill. Go'el Adam is allowed to kill. Right. Here we're saying.
But we're saying the son has an option, must exercise the option not to do it because it's in conflict.
Oh, 1 second. Yeah, correct.
So these laws can.
That's right. Because it's not a mitzvah, therefore the son can't do it. Okay.
But also the justice system at this time. When is this? Like 3,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the justice system wasn't established like it is today. Where you live in the country and if there's if someone kills inadvertently, there's a case open. But
This is the justice system. Same way that we have a whole system today. This was the system.
Yeah, but it's a entry system, If someone stole something, I didn't time up on 300 stolen.
If this is all hypothetical, is it ever a recorded case of something like this happening?
No, it's not.
But
But nonetheless, we still spend time trying to understand it because we want to understand God's ways.
what happened to a Jew who didn't keep Shabbos in his time? Wasn't he stoned to death?
That's the Torah's ruling. If he's got witnesses. Let's go. I want to finish this last bit because the next is a Mishnah. Which is Bura. Can we end that contradiction with this machloket of Rabbi Yisrael and Rabbi Akiva? Bein lemar d'amar mitzvah. Bein lemar d'amar rishus. Whether you hold it's a mitzvah or you hold it's permissible. Mishari. How can it be possible? Now comes the question. How can it be possible for a son to do it? Impossible. Whether it's a mitzvah or no mitzvah, we can't allow our son to kill his father. As they taught Lakol regarding all sin, a son may not become a court agent against his father, to strike him, or and to curse against him. So basically, could never hire a son to curse or punish him. That's true.
When did the son was adopted?
Wait a second. The son does not become mimesis. Only in a case of one who instigates others to engage in idolatry. He may even execute his father. This is someone who instigates others to engage in idolatry. Do not show him compassion, do not cover him. So from here we learn that even if it's his own son, so even his own son can kill him. If he's considered a spreader of idolatry, he's an instigator of idolatry, even a son can bring him. That's clear in the pasuk that they've shared. Okay. The worst case. Yeah. So let's see this. We see at any rate that the son is generally forbidden.
So
Yeah.
is it the son is allowed to kill the father, or the father is allowed to kill the son?
The son is allowed to kill his father.
Okay.
The debate is whether he can or can't. We decide on the can't.
Yeah. So let's finish the last thing. Eloloi kashya. Sorry, we see at any rate that a son is generally forbidden to implement the punishment against his father. Accordingly, even if there is a mitzvah to kill the exilee, it cannot permit the son to execute his father. Hence, the resolution offered for the contradiction regarding a son at the one Bryce that follows Rabbi Yisrael and the other follows Rabbi Akiva cannot be sustained. Because we're saying that you can't do it. Wait 1 second. So therefore, according to everybody, you can't do it. Whether you hold like Rabbi Yisrael or hold like Rabbi Akiva, you can never do it. So now you're back to square one. So how do you have two biases? How come, if that's the rule, that nobody ever steps out, right? If that's the rule, then how do you suggest that? So he says, Eloloi kashya. It's not a contradiction. In the original brises, Ha b'bnoi, one brisa is talking about his son. The brisa that forbids a son to redeem his brother's blood from his father. So one brisa is talking about a brother or a son. He's not permitted to kill his own father. Why? Oh, right. A son cannot kill his own father. And the last one, the other brisa is talking about his grandfather. A son of a son. So if it's a son of a son, he's only the grandson of the killer. Therefore, he may put him to death. The grandson. Look at footnote 55. In the brisa forbidding a son to be the redeemer, the pronoun his refers to the killer, i.e. the father. Thus, his son is the son of the killer. That's in the Brisa. Forbidding a son. In the Brisa, permitting the son to be the redeemer, his refers to the victim, the son who was killed. Thus, his son is the grandson of the killer. It's quite complicated. His point is that
The grandson can kill the grandfather.
the grandson can kill the grandpa. And that's why there's two Brisas. One Brisa says a son can't or a son can. It all depends on what sort of son it is. First of all, it's a beautiful message. The grandchildren are considered like their own children. It's a nice touch. But the bottom line is that a son can't do it, but a grandson can.
And the son will kill his mother.
We're going to stop here for today. It's the bottom of 12a6.
Rabbi, I thought grandchildren are the equivalent of children.
So again,
Grandchildren are the equivalent of your own children.
in this case, that's what Gemara is saying. And therefore, there's a plus to that and a minus to that. The plus to that is beautiful. Allah considers my grandchildren to be my children. But the minus to that is, like we just read, the minus to that, that's right, he can now kill you. So it's so beautiful that he's considered your son. But you know how dangerous he may be? If he was to see you in that state or see you after the accident, he's going to kill you.
Yeah, because you killed his father.
No. I wonder if there needs to be a break there or not between his father and your grandson. Let me just pause the YouTube here for a second.